So let's switch to talking about ownership options for a farmer. You hear a lot about LLCs. They seem to be pretty popular. What's involved with an LLC?
So an LLC is a limited liability company, and they are very popular because they're very flexible in terms of operation and how you set up the documents, and they help protect your personal assets because you put your business assets in the limited liability company, and then if your business is sued, if you've done everything correctly with setup of your LLC and you've maintained it correctly, then ideally, then you have protected your personal assets from the liabilities of your business.
Okay, so other than protecting you from liability, what are the other benefits of LLCs?
So for farmers, LLCs are very beneficial because for farm succession, the whole point is to set up the business so it survives the death of the owner, right? You want it to pass on to another generation. So an LLC doesn't pass away when the farmer passes away. And you have important documents in there, operating agreement, buy-sell, things that you can set up to also protect the business so that if there are disagreements, the documents talk about how those will be worked out. You can try to avoid a partition sale, which is if the members of the LLC or the partners, if they're having a dispute and want to break up the business, you can avoid, having the farmland sold and chunked off in a partition sale. And you can also set up restrictions so that members can't sell off their interest to someone else without everyone else agreeing. So, you want to be able to pick who your partners are in business.
Okay.
And the LLC creates a structure where you can rest assured that you kind of know who you're going to be in business with.
Okay, that's an LLC. How is that different from, say, a trust?
So trusts are different from LLCs because trusts are estate planning tools and an LLC is a business tool. A trust is really a contract between you, the person setting up the trust, and the trustee who's the manager of the assets within the trust.
So I've heard of a variety of different types of trusts that are out there. Does the farmer have to know what they, need before sitting down with you as far as which type of trust is best for them?
That's an excellent question. No. There are a ton of different types of trusts out there. There are asset protection trusts, Medicaid trusts, charitable remainder trusts, trusts for beneficiaries, all sorts of types of trusts. And those names are, they can be helpful to kind of know what the trust is for, but really they're marketing terms. So there are a ton of different kinds of trusts out there, and attorneys don't always call them the same thing. And the name on your trust document may not be the same as that marketing term.
Okay.
So what's important is, again, bringing your goals to your attorney, explaining what you want, and they'll set you up with the right kind of trust. But still, a farmer might want to know about two basic types before they go to speak with an attorney, and those would be revocable living trusts and irrevocable trusts.
That's something I've always wondered about. What is the real difference between revocable and irrevocable? It seems like obviously they're very distinct things.
Yeah. Revocable living trust, I like to think of as your alter ego. So it's I think of it as it's you with a cape. And the trust gives you kind of superpowers because it helps you avoid probate. It helps you avoid something called guardianship, where people can, usually adult children might take control of your assets. But with a revocable living trust, usually as long as you have capacity to be the trustee, you're the trustee. So it's your alter ego. You can move assets in and out, but it has some superpowers with it. It doesn't provide any protection of your assets, though. And an irrevocable trust, it's irrevocable. It can't, theoretically be revoked. It can't be amended, can't be changed. And the trustee cannot be you. It has to be someone else. And so sometimes irrevocable trusts are used to get assets out of your estate if you have enough money to have an estate tax problem. But more commonly with most of our farm clients in New York, irrevocable trusts are used for that long-term care planning to plan ahead for Medicaid.
Do you see it beneficial for a farmer having both a trust and an LLC?
Yes. In most cases, farmers want to consider, when they're talking to their attorney, consider having an LLC and a trust, because they're really two different types of vehicles. As I said earlier, trusts are for estate planning and LLCs are for business assets. So it's kind of like with the two vehicles, like a farmer might have a truck and a tractor. If the farmer needs to go to the doctor, they'll drive the truck, right?
Yeah.
If they're plowing their field, what are they going to drive?
The tractor.
The tractor, right? So they could drive the tractor down the street to see the doctor, but they wouldn't. So there are situations where it gets confusing for clients where things maybe could be interchanged, but really the trust is for estate planning purposes. And if they're planning for Medicaid, you really need to have that irrevocable trust. And you probably still will have an LLC to kind of dictate the terms of the business and those protections around who can be a part of the business and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, I think I'm seeing this ambiguity. So take something like the land itself, which is part of both. Where do you see an asset like the farmland falling into an LLC or to the trust?
Right. Land is tricky because, so like you say, there can be ambiguity with farmers and it can be murky about what's a personal asset, what's a business asset.
Yep.
So sometimes land is clearly for business use, but then take a personal residence. That's really for personal use. So a lot of times I will use an irrevocable trust if I'm planning for Medicaid for the farmer's residence. And but for the land, the other land outside of the residence, other parcels, we might use an LLC, we might use a trust, or we might use a combination of both.
Okay.
But I never like to put a personal residence into an LLC.
Why is that?
For two reasons, really. So the STAR program in New York is a school tax relief program.
Yep.
And the general rule for STAR is that personal residence owned by an LLC does not qualify for the STAR exemption. There is an exception for qualified farmer. So a farmer who has their personal residence in an LLC can still get STAR tax relief under the current laws that we have. But when we're succession planning, we're planning, for a sort of retirement for that senior farmer. So what if they're living in the personal residence long term? What if they stop farming? Will they stop being a qualified farmer? So that's the first reason.
Right.
And then the second reason is because the personal residence is really a personal asset. And personal assets really should go into a trust and not an LLC. The LLC is ideally to hold your business assets.
I think related to this, one thing we see at the land trust at times are life estates. How do life estates work with trusts and LLCs?
Okay, a life estate could be an alternative to using an irrevocable trust to hold land or to hold a personal residence, but they can be really problematic. I'm not a fan of life estates.
Okay.
The main reasons are, for one, when you use a life estate deed to transfer your property, you're giving a property interest to someone else right away. Like they have an interest in your property.
Yep.
So then you're preserving a right to live at the property for the rest of your life. But if you decide that you need to sell that property, for the sale, those other people that you're leaving it to for after you pass away, they're involved in that sale. They have to sign off. They get a portion of the proceeds. Or the same for if you did a conservation easement.
Yep.
You know, they own a portion of the property. It also can get really sticky with maintenance and who's taking care of what. Because you have a life tenant who's living there and is supposed to take care usually of general maintenance.
Yep.
But what if they don't? You can also have problems like creditor problems or things with the people that now own the small portion. So just generally, I prefer an irrevocable trust. You can spell things out a lot more.
Yeah.
And with an irrevocable trust, you can retain the right to change who gets the property. You can't do that with a life estate. You've already given it away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more flexibility with the irrevocable trust, and it's generally a better choice if you want to leave yourself open for changes and flexibility.
Going back to the business planning, LLCs. In general, how do you like to structure them? Should it be one? Should there be several LLCs? What's your opinion on that?
Farmers often ask if they need more than one LLC. And the answer to this question is really, it depends.
Yeah, sure.
And this is where it comes back to informing your attorney of your goals, who owns what parcel, you know, how many parcels are part of the farm, what are your plans for those, things like that. Do you have a mortgage or a loan on any of your property? Are you planning to get one? Do you need to sell a parcel for retirement? So all those questions, kind of having answers for your attorney, it can help them sort out whether you need an LLC along with the trust or more than one LLC. You may also have many different lines of business in your farm business, and you might want multiple LLCs so you can separate out liabilities in case one of those sectors of your business isn't doing well. Another common thing for farmers might be if they have off-farm heirs, like children who are not working on the farm,
Yep.
but they still want to leave something to them. If they don't have sufficient life insurance proceeds or other assets to leave to those children, sometimes a farmer will leave the off-farm or have the off-farm heirs be a part of a business entity owning land. So essentially, they're part of the landlord group. And then the farm business is a separate LLC for the on-farm children or heirs who are working the farm.
Related to this, a lot of farms will file paperwork with the county, so they're doing business as Happy Acres Farm.
Sure.
How does that relate to this type of planning?
Yeah, so anyone can go down to the county clerk's office and you can file a DBA and say, I want to start this business of, you know, Happy Acres Farm or whatever it is. What a DBA is really is it's a notification to the world of who are the people behind Happy Acres Farm or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that if someone wants to sue Happy Acres Farm because, you know, the cow got out and caused an accident, then they can go down to the county clerk's office or look online and find out who they're sending the paperwork to.
Yeah.
But there's no limited liability protection.
Okay.
It's just, you're just using a different name. So farmers, there are liabilities with farms, especially when you have animals. So farmers really should have a real business entity that's registered with the state instead of just a DBA with the county.
So what would you recommend is the best way for a farmer to sort of sort through these issues, make these decisions about LLCs and trusts?
Definitely consult with your attorney and your business consultant. New York FarmNet is a great resource, and because of providing you with a business consultant and family consultant, you can talk through these issues, be able to bring to your attorney a kind of a plan for what your goals are, and then identifying for your attorney what your assets are, knowing whose name is on that parcel, whose name is on that bank account, whose name is on that car. These are things that people don't always think about before they visit their attorney, but facts matter. So your neighbor down the street may have a certain plan, they have a certain trust, they have a certain structure, and your plan may look completely different because with law, the facts matter, and the answer is often, it depends.
Well, thank you for all this information and this perspective on this really complicated topic. I really appreciate how this affects farms operation, and how they are going to go in the future. At the Land Trust, we see this, and it's important to understand how conservation planning, business planning, and estate planning all relate together. So we hope this video offers this sort of broad perspective of the things to think about as farms are beginning to change and ownership's beginning to change, and all the considerations that go into that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. As you said, conservation easements can be a really important tool for succession planning, but it's really great to be able to describe the bigger picture of succession planning and to talk about all of this with you today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
For more information on some of these topics, look up the New York FarmNet at nyfarmnet.org. Or, to find farmers that are interested in new farmland, go to nyfarmlandfinder.org.
For more information on farmland succession planning, you can visit Harris, Perrow, and Botello's website at saratogawills.com.
And for information on land conservation options for farmers, visit the Adirondack Land Trust website at adirondacklandtrust.org.